Hello, and thank you for listening to Alex Rogue and the Crystal Pendant. Welcome back. This week, we will be listening to Chapter 4, The Old Man and the Elements. If this is your first time listening, we encourage you to go back and listen to Chapters 1, 2, and 3 on our YouTube channel, Alex Rogue. If you're enjoying what you're listening to, we encourage you to share the love with your friends and family using the hashtag AlexRogueBook on any of your favorite social media platforms. Alex Rogue and the Crystal Pendant is written by Ryan Russon and narrated by me, Jordan Levine. Enjoy! Chapter 4, The Old Man and the Elements. There was no dream this night. I woke up the next day confused as all of the events from the day before flooded back into my mind. After getting dressed, I walked downstairs and had a piece of toast for breakfast. "I'm gonna go on a bike ride," I told my mom as I took one last bite. "Sounds good, honey. Don't be too long, though," she replied from the kitchen. Wheeling my bike out from the backyard, I clipped on my helmet and rode down our driveway. I hadn't been on a bike ride for a while, not including going to Ben's house yesterday, and could go to either the creek or the bike jumps. Just as I reached the intersection, I made the decision and turned left, towards the creek. Once I reached the end of the street, I pulled my bike up the curb and then brought it onto the grass that was the creek's bank. I set it down and then went to the water's edge. The little stream went only a few yards across before reaching land on the other side. Beyond it, an old path led into some trees. I'd never been over to that side, because there was no good way to cross the water. Sitting down, I watched the water for a few minutes as it rippled by, before dipping a few fingers in. That's when I heard the turning of bike wheels behind me. Ben, hopefully, but I knew I heard more than two tires. It could only be them. Looking over my shoulder, I saw Bill and his thugs roll to a stop at the street's end. "Would you just leave me alone?" I called, rolling my eyes. "Why should we? We figured out what happened yesterday. Your little scrawny body pushed us down somehow. Now it's our turn," Bill spat, climbing off his bike. I got to my feet. "I pushed you down? I didn't even touch you. And even if I did, landing 5 feet back? I don't think so," I answered. "Then what's your explanation?" Asher asked, hopping off his own bike. Axel climbed off his also. "I don't know. A strong gust of wind? I'm honestly trying to figure it out myself, too." Now that I thought about it, the most logical explanation was that a gust of wind had gone by. But I felt like I had done something. Hadn't I felt that energy leave my hands when I saw them fly back? Had I created the wind somehow? "Can't be wind. We were all facing different directions," Axel pointed out, shaking his head. "Well, I don't know then. You tell me. Is that all you came here for?" I asked them. "No. We also want to play a game," Bill responded. "Great. Punch Alex." "Go ahead," I said, referring to a game they had harassed me with for the last few years. "Actually, it's something a bit different. It's called Throw Alex into the River," he answered. At that instant, Bill shoved me backwards, straight into the water. Because we were on the bank, only my arms and legs got wet. But of course, mud flew everywhere. I got back up and brushed off some of the little specks of mud. "Looks like the little twerp enjoys it." Bill seized me by the collar and held me there. "Let's clean that muddy face." He started dragging me down towards the water, but I broke free at the last second and booked it further down the bank. Of course, just my luck, I was stopped by a large, overturned, dead tree with an entangled maze of roots that blocked any possible escape. Bill and the others had now almost caught up. If I had just cooperated and let them throw me in, they wouldn't have been as hard on me. But now that I had tried to escape, I was basically dead. Just before Bill tackled me to the floor, I sucked in my breath and took a wild leap over the brook. It was nowhere near powerful enough, and the other bank stood tauntingly out of my reach. I tucked in my arms, preparing to land in the shallow water, but it never came. Instead, I landed on something solid. Dirt! Had I reached the other side somehow? No, it still stood there a few feet away. What the? I muttered under my breath. After realizing what had happened, somehow, dirt had risen out of the water, creating a little island in the stream and saving me from the fall. I quickly scampered up and jumped over to the safety of the other side. Then I looked back at Bill, whose reaction was very similar to how it had been with the wind the day before. He was standing there in shock, staring at the little dirt island. So he saw it too. Hopefully, this proved I wasn't just hallucinating. Asher shook him, and Bill snapped out of it instantly. He leapt onto the dirt island and prepared to jump again, this time straight towards me. I couldn't run. I was glued to the spot, partly with confusion and partly with shock, waiting for him to come. At that moment, the island fell away, crumbling back into the water, him along with it. Had he not made the jump at all, and I had somehow? That didn't seem likely. With everything that had happened so far, something strange was going on, and I had to find out what. Without seeing what his reaction would be, I forced myself to move and ran down the old path through some trees into a clearing. From here, many different paths went in different directions, and there were trees all over. But a large barren hill rose above everything else. Maybe I would get a better view up there. I started to climb, but heard Bill right on my tail. "Get back here!" he roared, barreling through the trees. I climbed faster. Finally, I grabbed a patch of dead grass on the top and heaved myself up. "Where'd you go?" he yelled. I didn't answer, hoping I could lose him, and turned back towards the hilltop. I had never been up here before, but I knew I could probably slip down somehow and rescue my bike from Asher and Axel. Just as I searched for that way down, I noticed the large oak bench facing away from me. A figure covered in a black cloak and hood sat upon it, watching the rising sun. Without looking back at me, the figure proclaimed matter-of-factly in a hushed yet endearing grandfatherly tone, "So, you're the special one, then?" All was silent for a few moments. "What?" I answered slowly. "You must have me mistaken for someone else," I told the figure warily. "No, I know perfectly well who you are. You're Alex Rogue, 10 years old, soon 11, and in the 5th grade. No, just finished 5th grade. I am talking about you," they corrected me. I took a step back. How did this person know who I was? "How do you know this?" I asked them in a surprised tone. "I have my sources," the figure chuckled. They stood up and snapped their finger, making the bench suddenly rotate towards me. "How did you do that?" I asked in amazement. "All in good time. It's not too different from what you just did yesterday," they answered, pulling back their hood a moment later. Underneath was an old man with a long, glistening white beard. "You thought it was a coincidence that that bully got attacked by the wind? What was his name again?" "Bob," he murmured. "Bill," I corrected him. "Ah, yes, Bill. I have a feeling he will be with us shortly," he wheezed. "Let us chat until he arrives." A hoarse, raspy cough followed right after he said this, and he sat back down. "Are you okay?" Yes, just very old," he told me. "Oh, and what about just now? When you made the dirt come out of the river?" he asked. So it had happened. "Through your mind and imagination, you have successfully accessed the power that the elemental master holds." What did he mean? How could power come from imagination? "How do you know about that? And what do you mean by my imagination?" I asked him. "As I said before, I have my sources, and also much knowledge underneath this wrinkly skin," he responded calmly. "What are your sources?" I urged him to tell me. After a few moments of silence, he quietly said, "Okay, I'll tell you. However, it is imperative and a matter of life and death that you do not tell anyone. Most of all, Moran mustn't know, for that is a line I do not wish for you to cross just yet." "Who?" I interrupted. The man looked confused for a moment, but then he motioned me closer. I hesitated, but then crept towards him. He whispered into my ear, "Unfortunately, you will soon learn of Moran. As for the question from earlier regarding my source, it is the cat." "The black one?" I asked him, confused. "Yes, the shadow cat," he confirmed. So the cat that had attacked the snakes was a spy. "Yes, the one who attacked the snakes is a spy," the man said, looking to the floor. I stared at him, my eyes wild. This person had read my mind. "You just read my thoughts." Without responding, he looked at me. Suddenly, a voice appeared in my head. "So it would seem that way," it said. I stood there motionless. "Enjoying the scenery with your grandpa?" "We're not through yet, Alex," a cold voice said behind me. I spun around and saw Bill. He was alone. His friends were either too scared to follow, or they were guarding my bike. Either way, there was a fight in my immediate future. "This is Bill, I presume?" The old man looked at me. I nodded. "What about me, Gramps?" Bill snorted. The old man ignored him. "One moment, Alex. We can resume our conversation after this." Raising a knobby, wrinkled hand, he pulled it back and then thrust it forward again. A force hit Bill, seemingly 10 times as powerful as what I had done at the party yesterday, and he was blown clear off the hill. Yet the old man seemed to do this with only the slightest amount of effort. Bill tumbled down, and when he hit the bottom, he didn't move for a few moments. Then he got up and angrily started to climb back up. "That all you got?" Bill shouted, reaching to the top. "I've got something for you," I said, copying the man's move. Then I thrust my hand toward him. Nothing happened. "Ha! The great Alex Rogue! What a wimp!" Bill mocked. Then a deep rumbling sound overtook his laughter, and the ground started to vibrate. Dirt and rock rose from the floor and surged towards Bill. Just before he was encased inside the dirt, I saw a look of pure terror on his face. He tried to flee, but the dirt had already trapped his feet. It swirled around him and pinned his arms down by his sides. "Who's laughing now?" I asked. Suddenly, a rush of energy coursed its way through my body, from my feet to my hands, and created a buzz around my head. "Your mind and imagination," I recalled the wizened old man's words from moments ago atop the hill. "Need a nice breeze?" Concentrating on the wind, I thrust my hand out, and a blast of wind hit Bill in the face. "Oh, is it too dry for you? How about some water?" Focusing on the glistening blue water of the ocean, I repeated the move and blew water into his face. "Or maybe that's too cold. Some fire?" I grinned. Thinking about the scarlet flames of fire, I thrust the memory at his dirt prison, and the dirt surrounding him caught on fire. After, I waved my hand in the air, and the flames sizzled out. But I wasn't done yet. I brought the dirt back into the ground by thinking about it and swaying my hand to the right. Bill collapsed on the floor, but got up after a few seconds and scrambled down the hill, practically jumped across the river, leapt onto his bike, and sped off racing around the corner. "I don't think he'll be messing with you again," the old man said, an ounce of humor dripping from his voice. My brain swarmed with thoughts. How did I? "Shh! Don't try to think about it. I know it's overwhelming," he assured me. "I wasn't even," I said. "Shh," he said reassuringly. Something else was controlling me. "I know. It's strange at first. How does it feel to control multiple elements? That is something I've never had the pleasure or burden of trying," he confessed. "Wait," I said. "Elements? Like the fire and stuff?" I asked, now paying attention. "Okay, I suppose I can give you a brief primer before you go to Starden this coming school year. Yes, there are 4 elements. I am the air sensei, so I control the air and wind through my mind.
I also lead the Silver Ninja. But there is also an Earth Sensei who leads the Gold Ninja, a Fire Sensei who leads the Gold Samurai, and a Water Sensei who leads the Silver Samurai. The Earth Sensei is currently studying at Starden, and the Water Sensei dwells in the waters around the island of Starden. As for the Fire Sensei, Moran, he is no longer on our side. But you can control all of the elements. You are the elemental master, the second one to ever walk on Earth. That is the highest rank of a true sensei,
he explained. Starden? I asked him.
That's what you got out of all of that?
He snickered.
It's a school for elemental learning. Your parents haven't told you yet? Interesting. Very well then, I'll spoil the surprise. You'll be attending this upcoming year. You'll learn more about your abilities as a sensei, as well as many other needed studies, such as fighting.
Fighting? I murmured, but the man didn't hear me. He gazed up at the sun and said,
Would you look at that? I'm off. Just remember to ask your parents about Starden.
He trailed off. Okay. I turned away. Oh, and what is your name? I asked. Hello? Hello? I turned around, but the man was gone. The hilltop was empty, even the large oak bench. I woke up on the couch and instinctively looked out the window. Clouds. Thinking about the events from just a few hours ago, I remembered the old man and the wind, dirt, water, and fire. Had it been a dream? Maybe. I wasn't quite sure. But now was the perfect time to ask my mom anyway. She was in the kitchen, putting together an egg sandwich. What is Starden? I asked abruptly as she set down her spoon and mixing bowl. Starden? You said Starden? She spun around and looked at me, completely forgetting about the food. I nodded slowly, and she ran into the office to tell my dad. Who told you? Yen, probably? He asked me as he came in. Yen? Well, I don't know what his name was, but he was old and had a long white beard, I told him. My dad looked at me, surprised. Citrus? He seldom leaves the island, let alone to invite people to Starden. Also, he showed me how to shoot fire, water, dirt, and wind. I'm not that good at it, though. Everyone at this new fancy school is probably better, I told him. Are you sure you can? My dad choked on his words. I shrugged. I can't really tell at this point. And recalling my brief conversation with, what was his name, Citrus? Concentrated with my mind. Bringing my hands up slowly, dirt followed and rose through the cracks in the floor. Then, I used wind to blow some of it around before letting it all seep back into the ground. My dad's eyes nearly popped out of his sockets in shock. Told you I wasn't good. Were you any good the first time you used your powers? I asked, looking up. My dad didn't answer at first. He was staring at my hands in awe. Alex, you don't understand. You were the only one on this planet who was able to do that. The second ever, he answered slowly, almost in a whisper. I looked down at my hands as he went back into the office to tell my mom. Hastily, he explained the whole thing to her. But afterwards, they didn't come back to me. Instead, they kept talking by themselves. So, instead of waiting, I went into the backyard and looked around. Any trace of the snakes was gone. The cat had probably cleaned it up. Wait, what was I saying? Was I really buying into all of this? I didn't know what to think. In most ways, I was torn on a decision. It could have all been a dream. Of course, I had just shown my dad, hadn't I? I walked around the porch for a little bit, trying to think, before coming to a stop in front of a strange shadow. It was shaped like a cat, but there was no cat in sight. Citrus had said the black cat was called a shadow cat, so maybe that had something to do with why I couldn't see it. I know you're there, I said. So, Citrus told you? A voice said. I was ready to believe anything now, even that invisible cats could talk. Yeah, he did, I replied. Can you come into view, please? Fine, it said. The outline of a cat appeared in front of me, and fur covered its body, seeping over the vague outline like ink. Eyes appeared, and then ears and a mouth. Soon it had changed back into its original translucent state. "Surprised?" it asked. "No, not really. These past few days have been very strange," I said. Follow me. I have something to show you. It might give you a little insight before starting," it said. There was that name again. One I didn't know what to think of. The cat turned away from me and trotted over to the back of the yard without a response. I followed, and soon we came upon a large crack in the back wall. The animal marched inside and returned a few moments later. It dragged a big jar out, its teeth holding the handle. "Take a look," it said, letting go of the handle. I knelt down and looked inside. Dead snakes were curled up and stuffed into the jar. "So, that's what you've been doing with them?" I said. "Yes, all for a good use, though," it told me, walking back into the crack. This time, it pulled out a small vial filled with a thick purple liquid. "What's that?" I curiously asked. "Snake venom calms you down. Try some," it encouraged. "Are you sure it's safe?" I asked. "Would you doubt a talking cat?" it purred. I shrugged, not having much of a choice. Pulling off the small cork top, I tilted the vial and let a few drops hit my tongue. "Ugh!" I said, spitting it out. I had to fight to push the cork back into the vial. Drowsily, I handed it back to the cat. "Ha! That one's always a good laugh. Don't confuse snake venom and snake blood. Well, actually, it's pretty easy not to. They look completely different," its voice trailing off. It pulled out a different vial, which I saw filled with a clear blue liquid. "This is snake blood. This one actually calms you down," it said. I slowly took it from the cat. "Are you sure?" I doubted. "Positive," it replied. "Okay then." I popped the cork off this one and cautiously took a sip. The drowsiness stopped and I suddenly felt calm. The surprising part was that it tasted like my favorite drink, orange Fanta. "Wow, that works! Why does it taste like Fanta though?" I asked. "It takes the flavor of the person's favorite drink. It's kind of like snake skin. If you have the guts to eat that stuff, it will taste like your favorite food," the cat answered. "That's disgusting," I admitted, handing the vial back. The cat shrugged and put away the other vials in the jar. After coming back out, its nose perked up. "Snake," it muttered. Looking around with its keen eyes, it located a single snake in the grass. "It's a scout. We're in trouble," the cat said, panicked. "Why?" I asked. "Because it will tell the others to attack," it replied, hastily covering the crack in the wall. "How?" "Stop asking questions. Grab that shovel you used last time," it snapped. Running over to the shed, I grabbed the handy shovel I used before to fend off the snakes. Just as I returned to the cat's shelter, the crack in the wall, I heard the snake bellow a loud, surprising sound. "The scout communicates to them like that," the cat said, answering my question. The snakes slithered out from their hiding places, surrounding the yard, and soon an army stood facing us. "We outnumber you greatly, puny human," one said. "Great, they talk too," I muttered out loud. "Who's in charge of this reptile show?" "Me," I heard. From the side of the house, a human walked towards us. No, it slithered. It was a snake that looked just like a human, but was black and purple and had scales. "Special one, new elemental master. I am Admiral Sikon of the Say." "Say?" I asked, not even surprised by his appearance. "Our species of snake," he said. "Now join us or die." "No," I told him shortly. He sneered. "Fine then, minions, attack," he bellowed. "Kill the cat, but not the boy. Moran and Scalabar want him alive." The snakes surged forward toward the two of us. I brought my shovel down on a few of them, while the cat clawed at another. No matter how many we killed, more pushed on. Suddenly, in the blur of battle, I realized that the only way to stop them was to kill Sikhan, their leader. If you cut off the head, the beast dies. At least I'm pretty sure that's how the analogy goes. Concentrating on fire, I thrust my arm out, but nothing happened. I waited for a few moments, but still nothing. How had it worked before? Right, I was angry at the time. What would make me angry? Snakes infesting my yard? Yeah, that did it. I powered up with anger and sent fire at Admiral Sikhan. It simply hit his skin and flickered away. Silly boy! Fire doesn't hurt us. The fire is our friend. It makes us stronger, Sikhan said. He opened his mouth and the purple liquid shot out. Snake venom! Dodging it, I thought of what would defeat him. The wind? I blew some at him, but it didn't even push him back an inch. I started to panic and thought harder. Would dirt and rock contain him? Testing my idea, the dirt swarmed around him, but he easily broke out of his cell with his tremendous strength. Earth helps us as well. We are creatures of the ground. It gloated triumphantly. Suddenly, the thought hit me. If fire made him strong and supported him, then what would stop fire? Water! Water puts out fire. Summoning a mass of water in my hands, I thrust it at the now nervous-looking Admiral Sikhan. It hit him, and instantly he weakened. You miserable child! Stop this instant! No matter, you cannot defeat me, boy. As long as I am in contact with the earth, I shall heal, he said. That gave me an idea. Thank you for the heads up, I told him. It will fail, no doubt, Sikhan laughed, advancing towards me. I used wind to blow him off the ground and contain him in the air. A look of worry spread over his face as he realized what I was doing. Being away from the ground was his weakness. It made him weaker and weaker the longer he was away from it. A few tiring minutes passed. All the while, the cat defended my position from the attacking snake onslaught. No, he growled softly, too frail to yell. You will turn, elemental master. I shook my head. I don't think so, I spat, sending one final gust at him. His final breath escaped through his mouth, and I dropped the scaled, lifeless body onto the concrete. The snakes saw that their leader had been defeated. They instantly fled the yard without so much as a word. Now all that remained on the battlefield, i.e. my backyard, were the dead carcasses of Sikhan and the remaining fallen Say. The cat strolled over to the body of Admiral Sikhan. This should provide lots of blood and venom, it said. Starting to walk across the yard, I found myself so tired that I collapsed. Summoning elements is difficult. You will tire easily, the cat said. You'll be trained to use them properly at starting, though. Oh, yeah? I said, finally gathering enough strength to get up. I looked around. For the first time in my life, I felt alive. Hey, I said to the cat who was walking away. Yeah, it turned and answered. Will I see you at starting? Maybe. In a flash, it disappeared. Well, that was Chapter 4, The Old Man and the Elements. Look out next week for Chapter 5, Meeting Moran. As always, if you enjoyed what you're listening to, please share it with your friends and family using the hashtag AlexRogueBook on any of your favorite social media platforms. Alex Rogue and the Crystal Pendant is written by Ryan Russon and narrated by Jordan Levine, with original score by Ryan Russon. Thank you all so much for listening and continuing to show us all of the love and support. Email us at alexroguebook@gmail.com if you have any questions or want a copy of our book. Have a great week, and we will see you next week with Chapter 5.